Executive Director of the Smith Mountain Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce, Vicki Gardner, was being interviewed by WDBJ reporter Alison Parker when former WDBJ reporter Bryce Williams, also known as Vester Flanagan, pointed a gun at them on film while he's filming this. He's pointing a gun at them and they don't notice this, and there's no reason why they would notice it during their interview. Standing behind the cameraman Adam Ward, Bryce Williams seemingly aimed the gun at Alison Parker several times actually, and then opened fire as the reporter ran away for her life. Alison Parker, Adam Ward, and Vicki Gardner were all shot by Bryce Williams. Alison Parker and Adam Ward died from gunshot wounds. Vicki Gardner was apparently shot in the back and is currently undergoing surgery. The shooting in Virginia happened around 6:45 a.m. this morning. At first, WDBJ-7 TV General Manager Jeff Marks didn't see a connection between the shooter and the victims, according to a CNN report by Elliot C. McLaughlin. Bryce Williams had worked for WDBJ as a reporter for only 1 year, ending in February of 2013. It's believed he was still living in the area at the time of the shooting. The motive was unclear at first, and Williams was fired 2 years ago for, quote, anger issues. I don't think Allison and the individual even overlapped here, said WDBJ General Manager Jeff Marks. Marks described Williams as having a reputation for being difficult to work with and felt he was an unhappy man. Cameraman Adam Ward's fiance, a producer for the WDBJ morning show, was in the control room of WDBJ when the shooting happened. Around 11:30 a.m., Bryce Williams' Ford Mustang was spotted by Virginia police heading east on Interstate 66. Police attempted to stop the vehicle, but Williams ran the car off the road and crashed. Williams was found in the driver's seat with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Virginia State Police spokesman Corinne Geller said Williams was transferred to a hospital where he later died. On his Twitter account, Bryce Williams accused Alicia Parker of making racist statements. So it's not clear who she was making the racist statements towards, since these two had never met, had never had any communication as far as we know. After working with me one time, Williams wrote, that Adam Ward reported him to Human Resources. Something that must have happened before he was fired in February of 2013. His strangely timed post suggests he felt Alicia Parker was his replacement, which is obviously crazy too. There was a reason why this guy was fired. It had nothing to do with this lady, and I don't know why he would accuse her of making racist statements, but there it is. And no, that would not justify anything just because if she was making racist statements. I'd like to see what these racist statements are that he's accusing her of. One of the stranger things is that Bryce Williams sent a fax to ABC News at 8:26 this morning, about 2 hours after the shooting happened. The fax was turned over to the authorities. In the fax, he wrote several bizarre statements that have been released by ABC. Here's some of those statements. Kind of out of context too. I haven't seen the full 23 pages of his suicide note, so if anyone has that, I'd like to really see it for myself. I'd like to read it for myself. But here's some of the comments he said. Why did I do it? I put down a deposit for a gun on 6/19/15. The church shooting in Charleston happened on 6/17/15. Now it gets a little stranger. He said that Jehovah spoke to him, telling him to act, which is a crazy thought. God would never tell anybody to act like that. God would never tell anyone to go out and murder people, to kill people. And if there's any crazy people out there, or any people that think that God is talking to them in their head, telling them things, God doesn't work like that, and God would never tell you to go and harm any other person. He would tell you to help them. So, he says, also, I was influenced by Seong Hu Cho, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. He says, that's my boy right there. He got nearly double the amount that Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold got. Just saying. The church shooting was the tipping point, but my anger has been building steadily. I've been a human powder keg for a while, just waiting to go boom. And in the ABC report, some of the things that they say is, in one part of the document, Williams calls it a suicide note for friends and family. And he says he has suffered from racial discrimination, sexual harassment, and bullying at work. He says he has been attacked by black men and white females. He talks about how he was attacked for being a gay black man. This guy is accusing someone of being racist, a white woman of being racist. He then says that he wants a race war, like this Dylan Roof guy did, or Dylan Klebold. I don't know why he says Roof, but so if he wants a race war. He also says that he has been the victim of racial discrimination and sexual harassment and bullying at work. Those are some serious, serious charges here. More importantly, though, he says that he has been attacked by black men and white females. So now we're talking about black on black crime. But it gets even worse, where he says that he talks about how he was attacked for being a gay black man. So now it's this guy believes that he is the victim. But the victims usually don't do such cowardice acts. The victims would handle it like rational, logical human beings. To rise above this type of thing, to rise above this violence, not to engage in it. Not to engage in a race war that you feel like you're being baited into. So, one of the other things we know is that Williams has also sued a Tallahassee, Florida TV station for racial discrimination in 2000 after he was fired. So this guy, you could say he has a history of maybe, accusing people of being racist and blah, blah, blah. I really don't know yet. I just find some of his posts and some of the things that he said and some of the bullet points about him are kind of weird. Why he would choose to act 2 years later, over 2 years later, is a mystery too. Why he targeted these two people is not so much of a mystery. I guess he believed that Adam Ward basically filed a complaint. After working one time with him, Adam Ward filed a complaint with HR against Bryce Williams. That says a lot. I file complaints, HR complaints against people, but never after one day of working with someone. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. So I don't know what the circumstances of that are either. Those need to be looked at too. I'm not trying to solve the case, okay? I'm not trying to say that this has anything to do with Jade Helm, or this is a false flag, or this is staged, reporters didn't die, blah, 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 all that stuff. I don't go there. I really am just asking the questions of what we know and what we don't know. And I think that will help us get to the truth here. Speculating and then trying to prove our theory will never help us. So I really try to not have any theory. And if I do, it's very, very loose. To me, this is something that I really don't understand yet. It's very new, so a lot of the facts have not come out yet. And what we know is very, very little. We know that this guy, besides the racial thing, besides the black on black crime, besides the sexual harassment claims, and besides the fact that he was a gay black man, he says that what put him over the edge was the Charleston church shooting. Now that is it is key. It is key to me, but it doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. You know, he is talking about these racists, and yet he's been a victim, from what he says, of black on black crime. I don't know. It's something just really doesn't make sense to me. So, and the fact that he didn't know the woman that he shot is even weirder too. Like, why blame her? She had nothing to do with any of your problems. Even if she did take your job, she didn't have anything to do with that. That's your own fault. You lost that job for your own reasons. Now, I don't know. You know, maybe later on we'll find out that this guy, you know, that some of his complaints were valid, but that does not give you reason to go and hurt anybody, even verbally. And it definitely does not give you any reason to go and hurt anybody physically. It's a serious crime when lives are lost. And to blame guns instead of the person who did it is ridiculous, because there are so many people out there who probably have gone through a lot of these things that this guy is claiming to have gone through and would never consider doing something like that. There's no honor in that. God would not approve of that. Any guy, whatever your version of God, unless your version of God is the devil, he would not approve of that. I can guarantee you that. I can only speculate, but I will stand by that. Now the devil would. The devil would approve of such things. And the devil relishes in such things and loves when we do such things. So, having a strong spiritual base is important. And if this guy had such a strong spiritual base that the Charleston shooting, the Charleston church shooting is what set him over the top, that doesn't make sense either, because we all know how that ended. Many of the people who were victims and the families who were victims and the people who attended that church, they ended up actually forgiving the person who did this. To me, it does sound weird. It does look weird. The videos should be seen. I don't know if I can post the videos with this video of this guy committing murder on TV, on live TV. This does look like a calculated thing, because obviously this guy knew that Alison Parker and Adam Ward were going to be here, and they were going to be filming something live. Now maybe that's just because that's how this morning show works. So he knew where they were going to be. Maybe he was stalking these two victims for a long time. We don't know. Why he chose this day and why he chose to do it live on film is because he probably wants people to pay attention to what he did. And the worst thing that could happen is that we get some of those copycat killers. So there is an argument to be made that people like me even posting a video talking about this could inspire copycats and could influence other disgruntled employees or other victims of racial violence or homosexual violence or whatever, black on black violence, that it might influence them to follow in this guy's footsteps. But everybody has to make their own choices. You cannot blame anybody else for your problems, and you cannot blame anyone else if you commit a crime, if you commit an act of violence. You are responsible. You can't blame God. You can't blame the devil, even though I think the devil is a major part of it. Ultimately, it is your choice. You have free will. And what you choose to do with your life, you have to accept the consequences of your actions. I know this firsthand. And it's not easy. But it's a tough world out there. It's a crazy world. But you don't want to make it crazier, okay? Bringing a little peace into this world can go a long way. It's up to us, and it's our choice. No one can force us to. I can't force you to read Scripture. I can't force you to turn to God. I can't force you to love Jesus. But I can tell you Jesus loves you. I can tell you that the Bible is there for you if you want it. And I can tell you that God is constantly with you, no matter what. Never give up. We have the choice of being peaceful or being violent. Now, some days the violence wins. Some days the peace wins. But ultimately, that's because of the choices we've made. No one else. To say that the Charleston church shooting is what set this guy over the top is just crazy. To call him a disgruntled employee, who wanted to seek revenge, to me is also wrong. This guy is crazy. This guy's a nut. This is not the actions of a sane person. And the last thing that I want to see happen here is that this tragedy is used to take away our guns. And I know you hear that a lot, and the gun grabbers, and every Second Amendment, we want our guns, blah, 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 but it's true. I asked myself a question. Would a gun have saved these 2 or 3 lives? And I keep saying no. In this particular situation, no, it wouldn't have, because they didn't see it coming. They had no clue as to what was coming next. But then the question is, well, how do you stop people like this from getting guns? The only answer that the government is ever going to come up with is to take them all away. If that's their answer to every problem, to every one of these shootings, then I can understand why people would think that maybe certain people within our government are behind some of these shootings, are encouraging some of these shootings, and want these shootings to happen. Possibly. Because who benefits? Who benefits from this? It's not the people. The fact that Adam Ward's fiance had to watch this and see this live is just, it's truly heartbreaking. But I don't want to see anybody use this story as an excuse to take away my guns, to take away law-abiding citizens' guns, to take away our rights. Not our rights given by the government or anything, but the rights that were agreed upon in the Constitution when the Constitution was written. What you can and what you can't do. These are not, to many people, and to many of the people who wrote the Constitution, these are God-given rights put on paper. And that is kind of how I view our Constitution, is that our Constitution is just God-given rights put down on paper by a bunch of people. So, a bunch of white people? Yeah, a bunch of white people. A bunch of racists? Not necessarily. Not all white people are racist. And not all white people should have to bear that burden of the other racists, of racist people, There's racist people everywhere. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you're from. There's racist people everywhere. I believe we all came from one man and one woman. So I don't get involved in the racial wars. I don't get involved in the tribalism or what my friend Sonny calls the caste systems. I stay out of all that. I stay out of the labels. I stay out of the movements. I stay out of the groups, because I don't believe that they're there for the right reason. I believe that they're there for their own reasons. Well, I'm here for God's reasons. And I'm here because I want to try to do God's will. I want to try to do what God wants me to do. It has nothing to do with violence. It has nothing to do with hatred. Okay? It has nothing to do with hatred of homophobia or anything like that. Homophobia is just another label too. Okay? We can deal with reality, or we can just run around labeling everybody, generalizing them, and putting them into these small little boxes to make ourselves feel better, and so to make us feel like we can understand what's going on. Yeah, you can understand, like the eyes of a children, like the mind of a children understand this real world, but that doesn't make it true. What makes it true is by our actions. All I can say is just love people. Forget all this hatred. Don't blame your problems on somebody else, and don't blame your problems on some act of violence that we don't even understand yet. Don't blame the guns, okay? Blame the person who used the gun. Even if you take away all the guns, you will not solve the problem of violence. They'll use something else. They might use bombs. They might use knives. They might use explosives. They might use fire. If people want to hurt people, they will find a way. The guns are not the problem. People committing violent acts are the problem.